Thank you, Madam Chair. As you indicated, my name is Chris Crawford. I'm the president of the National Association of Development Companies. NADCO represents some 260 certified development companies and another 200 affiliates, and together they provide more than 98% of all 504 lending. I want to thank the subcommittee for inviting me to comment on access to capital for small businesses. Given the credit crisis our country is now engulfed in, I can think of no better time than now to consider what our industry feels we need to, number one, get small businesses growing jobs again, and number two, get SBA on the right track to help rather than hinder lenders. First, I want to thank the committee for its support for the last 20 years. With your help, we've been able to grow the program from under $200 million per year in 504 loans to this year something probably north of $6.5 billion, with another $8 billion in generally bank-originated first mortgages to go on our projects. First, I'd like to talk about the authorization level. 504, as you know, is flat year-to-date, which, given the slide in loan demand for this country, is really pretty good. I expect loan volume to be a bit under $7 billion by the end of this fiscal year. SBA has asked for $7.5 billion for FY09, which leaves 504 with too little expansion room if borrowers begin to utilize 504 more due to the existing and the continuing credit crunch. I asked this committee to provide an authorization level of at least $8.5 billion for FY09, or I believe we risk running out of money during that year. 504 is a zero subsidy program, so there is absolutely no cost for adding loan authority to the President's budget, and I urge you to do so in FY09. I'd like to talk about fees. SBA decreased the annual borrower fee to zero for FY09, but still placed 504 in what's called a negative subsidy situation. That is, the program's other fees will be putting more money into the U.S. Treasury than 504 is actually projected to cost during 09. Even though it is only a small amount, according to SBA, it's about $1.4 million that small businesses could use to add jobs or buy equipment. Frankly, NADCO is appalled that SBA would needlessly take fees from small businesses during a recession, and we ask Congress to pass legislation to adjust our fees to exactly zero subsidy, not a negative subsidy. I'd like to address CDC lender oversight. SBA issued a proposed regulation on lender oversight, and NADCO was one of many organizations to express concerns over this proposal. No one wants accurate, consistent oversight of 504 more than the CDC industry. We believe that to maintain low fees, SBA must ensure that CDCs meet the lending, servicing, and liquidation standards required of a zero subsidy program. However, this oversight process has one potentially fatal flaw: its reliance on an unproven database that attempts to identify potential defaulting borrowers years before they might possibly default. That's kind of like predicting the weather in Washington. SBA is currently seeking to renew this contract for this database. We urge this Congress to step in and demand an unbiased outside verification of this forecasting system by firms with both credit underwriting and financial modeling expertise. Two lending industries should not be held hostage and regulated through such an unproven process. I'd like to touch on liquidation. Our default rate right now is about 4%, and our loss rate is barely 2%. However, as in previous recessions, defaults appear to be rising a bit. We obviously want to avoid what you might call a subprime scenario for 504, and that means there must be skilled personnel involved in liquidations and workouts. Unfortunately, SBA has, I believe, not hired a sufficient number of staff to work liquidations internally after having laid off virtually all of their liquidation staff approximately 4 years ago. Today, SBA is not complying with the intent of the 106th Congress or even its own regulations by handling liquidations and reimbursing CDCs for their liquidation efforts. It appears that SBA has not budgeted for these funds for either this year or next year to reimburse CDCs for this cost. The result is going to be there's going to be very few people, industry people or SBA people, to perform liquidations on defaulted 504s. I ask the Congress to pass legislation to require the SBA to allocate funds from increased recoveries to enable CDCs to handle liquidations. A recent study by the California State University has concluded that 504 returns $94 for every $1 of SBA administrative cost for 504. This is an incredible benefit ratio, but it works only if the program has accurate and consistent oversight and can recover its loan defaults that occur in the portfolio. NADCO asks the committee to support these program needs and to quickly pass legislation to keep 504 on the right track. Thank you very much.